Thank you very much, Pilot Zeche, for sharing that with us. Look, it's very important. We're women. We're not trying to be men. We're not trying to outdo men. We just want to be girls doing the job. And can we just get over that already? It shouldn't be a thing. So we were trying to move to a place where, as women, we can just be women in an environment that we choose to be in, and that should be okay with everybody else that is in that environment as well, and stop singling us out and pointing out the fact that we are women. I was in West Africa one day, and this guy steps to me and says, you're a woman. So I look in my boiler suit and said, well, the last time I checked. And so sometimes you take it, because after many years of going through this, you feel like, it's not even worth it anymore, half the time, to engage it. And so you just give them what they give to you. You just give it back to them, and quickly they adjust their tone and they adjust their attitude and realize that, oh, so you are present, she's present, and she's not to be messed with. Okay, moving right along. So Captain Mbogazi is one who I can't wait to hear from. She holds the issues of welfare of seafarers at heart. She feels a lot, so much so that she established a non-profit specifically to deal with crew welfare issues. And I think to take us to lunch, this is it's fitting that she speaks last, at least. Then she speaks healing, she speaks mentorshiping, she speaks what do we do next, what happens next, how she will probably share with us what she knows, the things that we don't know, things that go bump in the night that we are probably, even I am oblivious to. So I'm hoping that her insightful sharing will, no pressure, will help us as well gain a very nice perspective of where we are and where we can be, hopefully. Thank you, Captain.
Wow. Gosh, what was she talking about? Well, I'd like to thank SAMSA for this great initiative, firstly, before I start to speak. I've been just emotional the whole day. I am a very emotional person, and I'm a seafarer, and that's been me for more than 14 years. And with that, like Antoinette said, Captain Antoinette Keller said, you lose the human element of yourself, which for me is the ability to speak to people. I love people, I really do, and that is why, like Pastor said, I have an organization called Marine Crew Welfare where I try to tackle seafarer welfare issues, and I'm a mother, and I still say that is my greatest achievement for so many reasons. My children have been my strength. They have helped me reach out into the soft part of me, and I get emotional when I speak about my kids because when I go to sea, they don't have a mom, and that was my choice. And I had my children, the first one, just before I joined my first vessel. I left my baby Sean, he was just before he turned 1. And then, because I don't listen, I had my second child, Wazi. I think 3 years into my seafaring career, I was an officer then. And sailing had made me tough. But before that, I grew up as Ngolweni, KwaZulu Natal, very proud of where I come from. I was raised by my grandmother, Tobeka Tutwane. You did an amazing job. I was the first grandchild with my twin brother. And I was apparently the toughest one. I don't know where they got that from. And my brother is still, up to today, the soft one. But I don't know, things are slightly changing. I cry a lot now. But my grandmother had so much pressure because my grandfather was never home. We saw him once a month. And so she was raising 6 children and raising 2 grandchildren. My mother went ill the minute we were born. So I had a very tough upbringing. I had to grow up very fast. I had to learn very fast to take care of myself, to take care of my brother as well, because in our culture, a woman takes care of the household. And so I think that's where the whole take care of people element of my life was really sort of engraved into my being. And then later on I had young siblings or say cousins that I took care of while I was studying. I actually remember I would wake up in the morning, find my cousin, and then go to school. So the reason why I share this with you will tell you why I stayed at sea. When I went to sea, my family wanted me to be a doctor. They said I was smart, I knew I was smart. And I wanted to be a psychologist. And this is why. I live in a rural area where I was exposed to gender-based violence. I was affected by it, and it changed who I was. It didn't happen to me, but it happened around me. It happened to my great-grandmother. It was normal in our culture that a man can beat up his wife. And then it just filters through. And today, it happens that my brother beats up a girl that he dates, and it still seems normal in Ngolweni because it is a very, very deep rural area. It's so deep rural that we have Boxer, we don't have Shoprite, and we use cows as you can cross now, you can. So that's just to tell you, to get you a picture of how rural where I come from is. I still go home because that is where I get in touch with my roots. I am very Zulu. But anyway, when I went to sea, I wanted to escape, you know, all of that. And I dived deep into it again. And because my family didn't want me to continue working at sea, I had to stay. That's another, because they didn't want me to work at sea initially, so I had to prove them that, you know what, you were wrong, I was right. And even at the times when it was unbearable, because I don't get boobs, but that's not luck, because when they describe me as the captain with the big ass. And apparently that is okay. They still do it today, and it doesn't get better because now you're in management position, you're a captain, etc., etc. You're still described as that. Then when I tried to move ashore, but for some odd reason I kept going back to sea because we have mouths to feed, and sometimes it's not easy to get a job ashore. I was not really lucky to get a job ashore. So the struggles that everybody has mentioned, I've gone through, maybe worse. I woke up one day in a ship. We shared a cabin, so I think it was him that I was sharing with, because we were in the same ship. And she would go and watch while I sleep sometimes, then come back while I'm sleeping. We just change like that. So sometimes we forgot to lock the cabin. And I woke up, I think I was gonna go and watch at midnight. There's like this big man by my double bunk bed. So I asked him, what are you doing here? I mean, at that time I was actually, you know, older now, and I was more confident, and you know, I was tougher now. I could really punch a man. And I was so shocked. And he just said to me, oh, I didn't know where I was. And it was strange because I had actually good interactions with this guy on board, but now here he is on my cabin. I didn't know what to do. But it was one of those things where I felt, you know, I will report this, it will not go anywhere, it's going to taint my image, you know, because the sad part, like a lot of people said, you become what has happened to you. That one who had a man who almost raped her, blah, blah, blah. And it's very hard to progress when you are known for something negative. Another reason why I'm so excited about this seminar is because with marine crew welfare, and I think a lot of female seafarers are young moms and they can relate a lot to me, and so I get a lot of messages about these incidents where girls don't report them, and I understand. But in August, it was Women's Month, and I was doing some videos on social media where I was just encouraging seafarers. And this girl came to me and she said, "Sis Makosi, I would like you to discuss just for an hour perhaps one issue in particular," and it was this issue. And I looked at it and I said, well, I would really love to, but I don't feel that I'm ready at the time. I felt that I wasn't ready at the time because, like I said, you become the problem that you are trying to address. And today, because, you know, I just felt like God really wanted these things now to be, you know, discussed, because here we are. And I was quite excited when SAMSA extended the invite, because I felt, I feel very strongly about these things. But like I said, it really doesn't get better when you get to management position. I've been unlucky, maybe lucky, that I work still outside of the country, and I'm exposed, or I work in lesser privileged countries, West Africa. The culture is very different. Women must stay at home. And sadly, I still find myself being the only woman. And I thought, 2020, 2022, things should be better. There should be like 5 of us at least now. But you get comments like, "You are a mother, what kind of a mother are you? You leave your children at home." So then now you are stressed, work is heavy, and you're dealing with so much, and then you have to also now feel guilty for providing for your family. You know, so it's really those kind of things. Another incident that I really wanted to share is that even at office level, sometimes these issues are not being dealt with properly. My very unfortunate incident, I went to a ship, very recent, and I was a safety advisor, and so captain, when I go on board, he must actually, you know, act cute. But this one, he was very, very, very brutal to me. He bullied me. There is nothing in the books that he didn't do. And I stood there and I really wanted to punch him, but I cannot. Because it's my first contract, it's my first encounter with the vessel, and already there's so much pressure on the company for employing me in this position, because nobody actually wanted me in the position. The gentleman that put the word forward that Makosi would be suitable for this position, Makosi is actually qualified for this position, was told it was not going to work. So I already knew that, because even my tenure was a bit delayed by 2 weeks because of those issues. And so while I stood there and I heard him, another problem is that in less developed countries you have developed countries running the show. So they own the ships, and you have a lot of them in management positions, so they are DPAs, they are superintendents, and they are operations manager, the people that you must actually report to. The people that is dealing with the human element is actually friends with the captain. They come from the same town, they come from the same country, and they don't come from your country. The ship is not registered in your country. The company that's employed you has nothing to do with South Africa. You were just actually lucky to be employed there. And so I stood there and I listened to everything he was saying, how stupid I am because one, I'm black, I'm a woman, blah, blah, blah. And I cried, actually. Not because I felt weak, because I was angry. And then I noticed, and he started saying something about, we received the email that you were coming. I could see the guy's behavior changing, being excited on board. What's that got to do with me? I was not there when it happened. And then I noticed that when the AB took me up to the bridge, he was scared to go to the bridge because the captain is a bully. He is scared of the captain. The AB is a native of the country, and the captain is a native of the developed country. That's, and I thought, what to do now? Makosi, now you're a captain. Makosi, now you're a safety advisor. Makosi, now you've got bigger stripes. You can't go cry and then go back home like you normally do. You have to do something. So I reported it to the office. But then when it was time for the investigation and the lady was asking me questions, who is in the safety department, and she said to me, how do you know that he was discriminating you, or like, are you sure you're not taking this out of context? Did you take video? I'm like, have you ever been traumatized? Where do you get the time, the energy, I couldn't actually think. How am I going to get all that information? And why is it so hard for you to actually believe me? You've been at sea. There is no way that you've never seen anything like that. So that's another problem. One last story that I'm going to share. I'm sorry to take your time. In 2016, I was at home for a whole year. I had just gotten my chief mate's license, and I was quite excited. And now I've been a second mate for 6 years, so I'm going to be a chief mate now. I applied nothing. And another guy actually took my CV and then he called me, sent me details. I look more like a woman now, but before I looked like a man. I had short hair, I had it all going for me. Well, this also had, I had no boobs, I do have them now. Anyway, so he actually thought that I was a man. Until I don't know what happened, I don't know how come he didn't check. Then he comes back to me and said, oh, I'm sorry, I was actually looking for a man for this position. Remember the excitement I had in that going poof? And so I shared that on social media. It was my experience, it happened to me. I shared it because I knew a lot of women are going through it, and the backlash I received from men who are at sea, it shut me down. And that is why when the young girls that I mentor, and I mentor a lot of African girls from all over Africa, they say to me, please talk about this. I can't, because I get shut down, I get labeled as, oh no, that one in the industry is the one who wants to drag the industry down. No, I don't want to drag the industry down. We are recruiting now, there's a big drive to get small girls from the rural areas. I'm excited about it. I would love my girls to come to see and experience, because there's like a good part of it. I mean, look at me, you know? You wouldn't have this if I didn't go to sea. So anyway, but we have this big drive to invite these girls, but where are you bringing them to? I learned another big term when I was doing some conference where they said, God, I'm going to forget it. You know, when you are, this is part of project management, man, how you prepare the surface. The guys that still will remember you chip, and then you put the first layer coat chip, yes, and then, but that is not being done. So there is no preparation for, there is no, what is the term, Timber? Come on, you're an executive. So there is no preparation. It's just like, oh, they find out what happens, deal with it, you know. And it's really, really not fair, because the reason why I shared my history, we come already traumatized from our own experiences, because it's tough growing up in the rural. And then now you must also find a way to deal with the situations at work. So you're growing up as a traumatized adult, and you're supposed to get to management position and know how to handle the young ones. I had experiences where I was second officer, and then my cadet had nice big ass, I can say it. And she was wearing these tights and a nice top. She wasn't much with me, so she could. And I found myself saying to her, okay, you're going to have to cover a little. And then I went back to my cabin and I thought about it, like, Makosi, no, you struggled with the situation of having to cover yourself up. I mean, the captain that I looked up to was Travis. He wore shorts. He wore shorts onto the bridge and he walked like he owned the show. And that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to walk like I owned the show in my shorts. So now I'm forced to tell my girls, you can't look like that. You're gonna have to look a little bit preserved because you are intimidating the man. This is a man's place. I had to come back the following day and apologize to her and say, okay, this is a work environment, so we have to obviously respect the, policy, whatnot, but my girl, shine and intimidate them if you must. They will freaking fall if they must. We here and we are going to continue doing what we do. And I'm glad that I got to that point. But sadly, some people don't get to. Yeah. Some people have had to, I have 2 or 3 cases of girls that stopped saving. I can't share names, obviously, because the pressure was just too much. And like I said, I would have left too, but I needed money, I had family. And so we really, really need this drive to continue, and we need to implement it properly. The ship is very isolated. So you have nice policies to show, and we sing them, and we have conferences, and we discuss them, but we need to put a drive into now talking with the people that I see that are training our little girls. Maybe you have a conference or a seminar where you invite the captains and the chief engineers and the second engineers and OSs even, where you tell them, listen here, we don't do that here anymore. This is 2022. Because it is all good that is there, but if the people that is affecting are not taught, then it's a problem. It's just, these changes are not going to happen. And that is why Marine Grover exists. I hope to educate seafarers, and I hope that they're willing to actually come and learn, and I hope that they see that this is a problem, the culture that we have of just talking however the way we're like, I've had to learn how to talk to people as well, because sea can do that to you, it can really just drive you nuts. So people, you have to have a desire, but some people don't, so we have to pull them to teach them. I think I've spoken enough.
Not enough.
And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Captain. Thank you for sharing with us. Yes, takeaways. Teach, educate, reskill, upskill, multi-skill, sensitivity training. All that, the foundation has to be laid in order for us to transform this environment. It's good and well to design nice looking documents and policies and put them in place and expect compliance. But if the people that are charged with the responsibility of implementing these policies are not trained themselves, we are just shooting in the dark. We are going to trap ourselves in this vicious circles where nothing gets done and nothing changes, and my little girl will be exposed to the same problems that I faced when I joined the ship, my first ship back in 2005. And so I'm hoping that these dialogues can continue. When we meet after lunch, we'll hear more, I think, from other speakers as well, but I'm quite encouraged, and thank you so much for sharing your authentic stories. Only the only way you can share. And I'm hoping that while you are sitting there listening, you are also asking yourself, what is it that I am doing in my own little corner in order to change this narrative so that the ones that are coming after us do not have to go through this. I mean, we can all agree it's trauma, bunch of it. A lot of the times I get told, oh, you are so confident, you are so bold and so dynamic and all this complimentary words that are welcome very much, you know. However, I don't think that I've always been like this. I think situations, traumatic situation after traumatic situation has forced me to be the person that I am today. I cannot say boldly that this is my character, but if I were to sit down with myself, I'm on a journey of self-mastery, this rediscovery, and I'm finding out that much of who I am is stemming from trauma, and the bulk of that trauma happened while I was at sea. I will not share the details, but here we are today, finally having to sit down and formally have these conversations honestly and unearthing them, because it's only through unearthing them that when we bring them out to light that we can actually deal with them. And I just need to take a minute and acknowledge Moses Kodani in the house. We need them. They are a research institution specifically tasked to go and document academically these issues, bring them out so that when they are here on paper, then we are able to then deal with them. We must know where are the seafarers, what are they doing, where are they hiding, what are they busy with, what have they gone through. So they will help us with designing questionnaire, the kind of questionnaires that asks the right questions, so that we can encourage honest responses, and then quantify those responses, and actually now starting to map out exactly where we try to what we are trying to achieve with this seminar. And thank you very much, Program Director, for this opportunity, and thank you very much to everybody.
Just one question.
Okay.
Yes, my apologies for that.
Sure.
I wish we had time for question and answer sessions, because I think we have so many for them. We have so many questions in our mind. It necessarily may not mean that they respond, but when something happens repeatedly, it then becomes a culture and gets accepted. And I've listened to you all saying the same thing. When criminals are not arrested, they become better criminals, and they continue to commit more crime. And I think this is what is happening in this sector, in the vessels. And I've listened to you carefully, and that is why I'm here, because your reporting seemed to be going up to the level of whoever is on board, and never outside. And amongst you, I think somebody, I think it's here, who was saying we call it sexual harassment, when in actual fact, it is sexual offense, it's a crime. But I was hoping to hear from you, because when I was briefed about the seminar, I said to SAMSA, please invite people from the Justice Department, from the Prosecuting Department, so that they can actually come and listen to some of these things and begin to know whether the system is able to deal with these crimes that happen some way where they are not, but it's a South African, they've got to come and report in South Africa. And I was hoping that I will hear something that says, what are the difficulties that you go through when trying now to report this crime as crime, and not something probably that happens at work? I was going to ask that question to say, what is it that you think we need to do? Because in my mind, something says, maybe from here, we still have got to go to Chief Justice Zondo, to the head of prosecution, and say, listen to us, this is a crime that is happening. And it never sees the light of the day in our courts. And what are you doing? Are you aware of this crime? But like I'm saying, if I had an opportunity, I was going to ask that question to say, what then is your experience when it comes to you taking these matters, as crime as they are, to the criminal justice? But thank you very much. But thank you for this, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think that becomes the question as well that we should take note of as we chart a way forward. Yeah, we can possibly answer. I mean, my experience, I sat down, I got just really tired of this persistent harassment and bullying, and so I called a witness into the master's office because the master was the perpetrator. And I sat him down with the chief mate. I said, I don't want you to say anything. This one needs to hear from me. And I'm going to tell him what's what. So I said my piece. And he was wiggling. I said, wiggle all you want. You will stop with immediate effect from this and that. And I listed them. I said, do with that as you wish, but you will stop. If you continue, I will not be held responsible for how I respond. And he then, because he knew he had the backing of the office, is a very high-ranking, highly experienced master who's been at sea longer than I have, picks up the phone and email and start demanding that I be taken off the vessel because I'm incompetent, I'm this, he made up all his stories. And fortunately, the crew manager, he knew me, he understood, so he knew that there has to be an issue. He calls me, it was about 11 p.m. on South African time. I was somewhere in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean Sea, and he says, what is going on there? I said, listen, I'll be very much happy to come to the office and tell you the story, but I'm not interested. Whatever it is that he said, I told him that I'm not escalating. I just want him to stop. But he escalated, obviously. But I will be very much happy. But I will tell you what the issues, the real issues are. And the real issue was that I wouldn't go to bed with him. So he felt rejected, and so he resorted to those things. And unfortunately for him, it was around the same time that I think within a week after we've had these conversations back and forth with the company, our late Akona happened. So when I signed off the vessel, I was called into the boardroom to come and share my experiences now. So I'm sitting there in the boardroom, there's 6 white men across in the boardroom, and they want me. I said, what is the point to this? First of all, there's not a single woman in this who will ever understand, you will never understand what I'm talking about. It's pointless to talk to you. It's 6 of you who clearly you're not interested in addressing the issue. For you, it's damage control, just in case I come out, because the media was going on a frenzy, looking for seafarers, women specifically, to tell their stories. So I told them straight, I said, it's pointless. You deal with him. Why am I here? Why is he not here? You know? So these are the challenges that we face. We face them on board, we face them within the management of the shipping companies or the ship owners whom we serve. So those are the challenges. We don't know who to go to. Nobody is coming. And I think everybody would agree. Nobody is coming. So we feel helpless.
I think we're having a conversation.